Hello, anyone that might be watching, and welcome back to the next episode of Talkin Guff, episode number 2.
Yo yo.
Yo
We're in the clutch.
Tell
Hello,
me,
radio
Len.
listeners. What's correct?
I'm sorry, just again, I'm your host, Ruben Django Pouch.
I'm your co-host, Leonard Lennon.
See, I think is there a way we could figure that out? How we're both co-hosts, basically. So my partner.
But it's sort
Do you
of the
ever
person who
notice
says
that-
it first, though. Like, so you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
okay,
I'd say
yeah.
I'm your host, and you'd say I'm your co-host. It's kind of the same thing. Really,
So I just got to make sure I always get in there first,
Exactly.
just to massage my ego.
Yeah.
I was gonna say partner in crime, but that comes up a lot. Did you ever see on Tinder? Did I discuss this? Did I say this before? You ever see on Tinder women? It's like, I'm just looking for my partner in crime.
Yeah.
And there's something like, yeah, I'm racy, but you know what I mean? It's just like, and it's always some clean shirt who works in a fucking bank or something.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
I always switch it
I'm
off
your
when.
bike love.
Oh, there's you and your 6 mates having espresso martinis. In front of that, there's some nightclub in town that has a sign that says, well-behaved women don't
I've seen
change
it. I've
history.
seen it.
And all these girls get their picture. Now, look, I say this knowing that I've never looked at lads' profiles on Tinder. I'd say they're a fucking
We're gonna
nightmare.
get into that.
Let's not even go
Men are
there.
douchebags, and don't worry, we'll touch on that later.
But some of them are, anyway, yeah, crack on. Some of them are fucking hilarious, yeah.
Don't be too conscious. Just roll it. Can you hear him? He's getting upset. He's
No,
getting
yeah, I'm
upset.
just like fiddling with something.
We're just
like,
messing with the microphones this week.
Oh, okay,
Omnidirectional.
that's grand. So if it ends up flopping a little bit, okay,
Gives you a
cool.
little leeway. I mean, ideally it'd be pointed more towards you, but
Don't stress.
don't stress.
Don't stress.
Let me stress. Huh? No, seriously, no. Well.
You just click
How
it
can we
here.
see his guns if he puts your zippy on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've been working on them. Ish.
Anyway, how was your week, Len?
Man, my week was good. I was doing this. Sorry, I think a fly just went on my coffee. Anyway, that'll be an adventure.
Protein.
I was doing this. Good point. Yeah, I was doing this. So I was doing that digital detox for the
Great,
whole
because I
week,
wanted to
right?
know. Talk to us. Let us fill us in.
Man, it was fucking amazing actually. Yeah. My name's Sycamore now. It's not Len anymore. I've really discovered.
Yeah, it was under a blood red moon that I realised that.
The world just opened up to me, and suddenly I was bathed in the light of creation, and I realised that
sounds alright.
I've been chasing my tail. I haven't been able to find my arse with both hands, and anyway, yeah,
He's having a microphone issue.
but he's having a meltdown. But no, man, I honestly, it was actually deadly. I was saying to you because I actually rang Ruben the. What was it? Was it on Friday? No, it was that night. No, it was on Friday night. I rang Ruben, being like, "Man, this is amazing. I feel like a new person." Or whatever. And I was like,
Lost on my phone.
"Slow down, lad." Like, so yeah. While on the phone, I was like, "Slow down, lad. You're one day into it. All right. By next week, you'll be smearing likes on the wall and your own shit." Like,
The Bobby Sands of technology.
the Bobby, yeah, doing a dirty digital protest. But no, it was actually lethal. Now, I had certain rules, like I was only going to use the phone for communications because I wasn't going to cut myself off from the rest of the world, right? Like if someone needed to get it through to me. But that was it. The rest of the time it was in a drawer. And I only used the laptop for like work and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Cool.
Other than that,
Fair play, Len. Fair play to you.
I tell you, man, it was actually amazing. Now, the hardest part was that I couldn't listen to music. Like, I couldn't listen to Spotify or anything
Well,
like
now,
that.
what I will say about that is that I don't think, whatever about technology, I don't think there's ever a point in which we should stop listening to music.
No, for sure. But I was sort of like
Always allowed, in my opinion.
like there's an old record player in the gaff which doesn't work. So I was like, okay, if I could get that working. But you know what? Funny
Bit of a
enough,
non-starter.
yeah, bit of a non-starter. Yeah, hardly worth mentioning. Some might say, but
Local busker.
yeah. Hey, come here.
You know, come to my house, play a gig in my living room.
I'd just be sitting there in the
€2.
living room and he'd stop. Son of a, open the window, throw a 50 cent. Ow! Keep playing. I know I don't care if you can only play Wonderwall. But honestly now, see, this is the one thing. So I was kind of gonna say, all right, look, I was prepared to like break it and say, look, if you want to listen to a tune or two, fire ahead. But then I kind of was like, okay, it might be a slippery slope or whatever, you know, because I go, okay, if I use Spotify, then why can't I watch the odd thing on YouTube, whatever. But it actually forced me to fucking just get the guitar out of the out of the out of the I won't go up in the attic. I'm terrified. But I get out of the case, and you know what I mean. Like actually,
no. All joking aside, that's great. Listen,
that
fair
shit
play
to-
to you because I didn't do it at all.
yeah.
I tried just to curb myself in that, like when I first wake up vibe, not to be going near my phone, and I did better. You know, let's take it a day at a time here. I did better last week than I had the previous week, and why don't we then make the arrangement or the agreement that going forward we will try to make that almost part of our lifestyle, not necessarily the complete disconnection from technology, but to really keep an eye on the toxic parameters of it.
That's the thing. Anytime I find myself craving, because that was a big thing for me. Like I used to sit and eat my breakfast and watch like something on YouTube or whatever, like one of them American late night guys. And instead now I just have a bit of a read of the book, and I'm like mentally I'm so much better off.
Totally,
man,
yeah.
so much. And that's the thing. It's not just about that like Unabomber, hey, let's get off the grid and eschew this tech. Because look, like we always say, and this we kind of maybe should have mentioned this a little bit more last time, I guess, that look, we live in this world, man. There is no escaping it, and there are good things, man. Like YouTube has meant more to me than my whatever 3 years of college I fucking did. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Man,
totally.
in terms of an education, you know?
and we could spend all day listing off the ways in which technology is a good thing. And again, it's a valid point to make that we're not eschewing technology. We're not fucking Amish.
Yeah.
And then fuckers use power tools anyway.
I've seen them.
Chop saws and all. But it's just, I think again, it's just to be aware of the dangers, the pitfalls, the toxic parameters, and just try and traverse them accordingly for your own well-being and your own mental health and your own happiness.
It's like, this sounds extreme example, but it's like, you know, morphine when used as a painkiller for an operation is like an essential medical thing, but then nobody should be a heroin addict, you know, that kind of way. So that's the difference. Technology has a use and it has amazing parameters, but the problem we have is
we abuse it.
We absolutely abuse it, and the whole structure is set up. Like, big tech isn't there going, here guys, don't be on your phones the whole time.
No.
That's not what they're for. Live your lives. Fucking no, man.
But you start to see as well, it comes out that people who work in big tech don't use technology the same way as or you know what I mean?
That's
They don't
interesting.
use tech in the same way that the people they create it for do. Like, I think I remember reading or hearing a thing that, like, Steve Jobs and, like, they're really aware of screen time with their kids and stuff like this, and they limit it, and you know, it's important. And you hear other guys saying that this is not sort of what we had hoped. We were trying to be innovative, and now it's led down this other sort of path, this malevolent path, if you will, and they're not for it. A lot of ex-tech heads are sort of trying to communicate the pitfalls and whatnot.
So what is it then? Is it the algorithm has kind of taken on
I think it's just that, like, all of these things, it's just that the more control and you can have from a situation and the more revenue stream you can create from it, it's just like, yeah, let's do that because it's power, it's money, it's attractive. They're big business. That's what they're into.
Yeah.
You know, and it might have started off with a bunch of college students dicking around with an algorithm. But these things, when they get legs and start generating massive sums of money, they just morph into something else. And it's usually malevolent in sort of... in my opinion.
No, you're right, man. I think, and when you have figures like, I don't know very much about Steve Jobs or whatever, but he displayed a lot of kind of leadership qualities in that way. And when you have... When guys like him are gone, and the next generation then are kind of just looking to, you know, keep the shareholders happy, then that's what you end up with, I think, to an extent.
I get where you're coming from. I wonder, Bill Burr does a great bit about Nerd Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, fucking Nerd Jesus died, and and he's talking about Steve Jobs, and he makes the point. He's like, this guy is not like. He's like, they keep making these ads. It's just like John Lennon, Gandhi, Steve fucking Jobs. And he's just like, He's like, this guy has a fucking sweatshop. There's motherfuckers jumping. Like, that's, you sort of go,
he was basically...
isn't he so, like, fucking new age tech hippie? No. He was the leader of a CEO, owner of a billionaire corporation.
And he was like, he said he wasn't even the genius who came up with the technology. He just told a bunch of people to do it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He said, like, he's just like going, I want to take all my music collection and fit it on this. Figure it out. Figure it out. Just walks out the fucking door. There's a great film, and it's like a TV movie, but it's called Pirates of Silicon Valley. And it's about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates when they were starting out. And who Noah Wiley is Steve Jobs. He's quite good in it, actually. You know Noah Wiley? Do you remember Noah Wiley from ER? There, right there, boom. Noah Wiley is Steve Jobs, and I tell you who's Bill Gates. He does look a bit like him, and he's really good in it, but who's Bill Gates? Brat Pack actor, the nerd in, like the red-haired sort of goofy nerd in... The Breakfast Club. He's in all of the John Hughes things. What's his name?
Yeah.
Anthony Michael Hall. Look how fucking mental Anthony Michael Hall looks now. How much plastic surgery has that piece of shit had? Jesus. Anyway, Rob, how was your week? Because again, joining us today on the ones and twos, the technical ones and twos, is Robert Slattery, Holy Pony Productions. How was your week, big man?
Yeah, it was good.
It's good.
I won't get too into it because you won't actually be able to hear.
Yeah. It's more of a. This is more of a just. I'm just trying to be polite. It's a gratuity.
It'll be 5 minutes. Of
We don't give a fuck how your week was.
Right, thanks, Rob. We don't need your fucking life story over here. Jesus.
Yeah.
This guy?
Edit. Put in an edit.
Ruben, this is the guy?
That's
this is
the guy.
Seriously?
He's good with the numbers. Ones and
what I
zeros.
will
Yeah,
say
well,
is-
stick to that, huh?
Okay, like I was saying, no one gives a fuck how your week was, Rob. We were just trying to be polite.
Yeah, sweet.
Oh, that's mean. I felt me. I was trying to be just sort of.
No,
I
prefer it
care.
that way. I prefer it that way.
Okay. So look, last week we decided that this podcast was going to be called. The heading for this week's podcast was going to be called sort of the death of conversation, or the death of the age of conversation, which I really think is a real thing, and it's an important thing to talk about. But it occurred to me when I was trying to sort of get a bit of structure on this, that the death of conversation is actually it's a symptom or a byproduct of division, and sort of how divisive we've become socially, politically, financially, etc., etc. And so maybe somewhere it should be death of conversation / divided we fall. What, are you all right with that?
Yeah, man. It's a.
Are you sure now? You seem like you had a reservation there.
No, I was gonna say. I feel like there's a division. No, I was gonna say. There is a really. I was kind of caught between two things there, but I was gonna say there is something. Yeah, I wanted to mention that. I'm pregnant. No, that. Yeah, that basically, and this goes back to your man. I'm, and lots of people are always shiting on about your man Harari, who talks about how, like, in the world, you know, back in the day, in the start of the 20th century, it was like liberal democracy, fascism, communism, right?
Yeah.
And then fascism went down pretty hard, as we all remember. Communism, there was a Cold War between democracy, or liberal democracy, and communism. Communism went down in like 89, 90.
Yeah.
And things seem kind of like, hey, the world is all going to come together now. It's just us versus like this very small minority of, you know, alternate and you know, and somehow kind of backward or seemingly backwards philosophies. But that now the liberal democracy, because it's kind of the last game in town, it in itself is sort of falling apart. So there's kind of the idea that do we just always need an enemy that we'll fight with? That if we don't have an external enemy, we'll just fight amongst each other. Like, do you know what I mean? Is that
Listen,
where we're at?
You've given me the horn there because you've totally touched on a really fucking valid point, and I'm just trying to see where along in my notes it is, because 100%. Can we let that just percolate?
That's why I was going to say
Okay,
it's a bit far. It's a bit too far down the line.
But honestly, because
I
I 100%, we're on the same wavelength. Me and you, we're just having a little thing here.
Thanks. Makeup. Where's makeup?
Sorry, man.
Jennifer.
Where's the fluffers?
Jennifer, could you just get us a latte, and Ruben needs some fluffing.
Keep it.
I can only sustain his horn for so long. Oh man, good thinking.
Look, that's fucking
Gangster.
engineering
That's
101.
MacGyver over here.
So what I was thinking is that we could,
Sorry, that was Rob just desperately trying to get into the podcast.
Look, we'll get you a microphone next week, all right? So So I was thinking Death of Conversation / Divided We Fall. Obviously, it's Together We Stand, Divided We Fall. But the idea of Divided We Fall is really interesting to me because it makes so much sense to me. And when I look around at our Black Mirror sort of existence, it's like the perfect opportunity for some malevolent force just to swoop in and fucking have us for breakfast. 600 BC, I think, Divided We Fall. A Greek storyteller by the name of Aesop. That's where it was first directly linked. He had two stories, one where it was indirectly linked, that saying was indirectly linked, and one was directly linked. You're talking about 600 years, I think, roughly before the year of our Lord, even.
Yeah.
And it's great because, again, we touched on this last week, and it's something I find interesting, is those old adages, those cliches. Like, you know, they're almost like they're the lessons you have to remember, but they're the lessons we're forgetting.
The things that people have been saying for years and years and years, 100%. I mean, I get as well, the new, the next generation will always want to kind of veer away and do the opposite of what...
I know, but I'm not saying, like,
that's
fix your pants and get a haircut. You know what I mean?
Pull up your socks.
That sort of thing. I'm saying, let's not be dicks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, man, I wonder what, I mean, division always, I suppose, erupts or takes place in a righteous sense. Like, I think very few people say, I'm going to take issue enough to actually, to other someone else, to make that us and them mentality for the fucks of it, for shits and giggles. Do you know what I mean? It's always because they feel that, no, I'm what is it? It's like, I'm actually, this issue is so important to me that I actually can't live in a world with you where you think something other than what I think. Do you know what I mean?
I understand that to a degree, but there's at some point it's just like, but that's your problem, mate. And you don't want to live in the world, then don't. Go live in whatever fucking world you want to live in.
It's that kind of thing. It's like, if you're not, and like you say, that that's the thing when it comes to the Death of Conversation. It's like, how petulant can you be that you can't discuss this with somebody?
Do you know what I mean? It makes me so angry and frustrated, and that's the sort of catch-22 of it, or the hypocrisy of it. Is just like, you're getting angry talking about people getting angry, whatever. But there's just, I love division, or I'm not afraid of division if it's a precursor or a catalyst for resolution. But when I see that, and this is sort of a running thread, I think, in this week's podcast, is that I don't see that resolution. I just see the catalyst, and it's like, it's frustrating. It's worrying, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's this scorched earth thing where both sides seem to be kind of saying, we will never, like, until you completely, in fact, you know what, until you completely capitulate. I mean, that's like, like, you want to take the caliphate, you want to take Daesh, or as they call themselves, ISIS, in Iraq and Syria. I mean, we know that they have the attitude of, until the rest, they never want to live in a world where everyone's we all just kind of get along, or we all have our own place. Their brand, anyway.
I know, but either did the Westboro Baptist Church.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's I almost feel like, where the two sides are divided, let's say in America, where you have the extremes, simply because America still dominates, or is still kind of this bastion of the global discourse or whatever. You have the right and the left, and both the extremes on either side. It's almost like the conflict is now the purpose, is the end in itself. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That they actually, it's kind of like, well, what do you just imagine a world where all of the people who disagree with you, what, do they die? Do they disappear? Do they all just come around to your way of thinking?
Yeah,
and
it's like fucking bizarro.
No, it's the outrage, and this is, again, to tie it back to your man Harari, which is, the point I probably should have made earlier, or of his that I brought up, which is that we feel like the narrative is broken down. We used to, for so long, again, going back to that Greyhounds thing, you used to feel like your life had a purpose, like there was, no matter what, how small a cog you were in the machine, that machine was building, was working towards something. You were all on board this massive ship, and it didn't matter if you were below decks or in the captain's cabin. It was heading to the promised land, and now
And you were in it together.
you were in it together, and
Yeah.
now it feels like now we've been stuck on the high seas for weeks with no wind, and the captain's still up there eating his,
Caviar and beluga.
and whatever. Yeah, and you're down there for scraps, and we're starting to go, what's the crack here? Like, are we heading anywhere at all? And people feel powerless. Is essentially what I'm saying. People feel like they're not connected to that overarching sense of meaning. So they'll just scrap for it. They don't feel powerful when they go to work. They don't feel like the world is becoming a better place like their parents did, in the 60s and all.
Yeah.
So they just go for whatever power they can, which, if that just means getting some comedian cancelled online or doxing some feminist and having a bunch of thugs show up at her gaff and egg it or whatever the fuck, or fucking hacking some celebrity and posting nude photos of her all over the internet, whatever, just little victories they can, whatever makes them feel powerful. And it's fucking sad, really,
It's very sad. It's very antisocial. It's very malevolent. And like, I tell you what, I was nervous about this podcast, and when I was trying to get some structure on it, I was a little bit nervous about it, because we're going to be talking about divisive situations socially within our community and within the community of the world. And the funny thing is that what's making me nervous is how people might take what you're saying and sort of attack you for it or whatever. And I wanted just to make the point that I'm not trying in this to criticise any of the issues or criticise the social issues at the crux of what I'm talking about or at the crux of what our conversation might be. And so that, like, I didn't want to feel like I was fueling some sort of level of division by drawing attention to it. And definitely it's not about that. It's about trying to have a conversation about it, or to make it all right to talk about these things and each parameter or facet. Like, I tell you what I think is amazing. There's a guy, and I first seen him on Vice. He's a black dude in America, and he goes around visiting KKK heads.
Jesus,
converts loads of them, like, by having real conversation. Doesn't go in going, and this is a guy who was so vulnerable to this situation on so many levels, physically, spiritually, emotionally, like, that to go put himself in that situation and to not let his anger or his upset or his fear or any of these things take over the situation. And he just wants the most real, progressive, organic thing to happen. He wants to have a conversation and where they listen to each other and try then to resolve the situation. Like, that is a microcosm for exactly how we should be dealing with things, the world out, I think, or throughout the world. And, like, fucking seriously interesting, dude.
If that guy, if he can, actually, I'd love to get the name of that guy. Let me get the name. Let me get that guy's name.
If you were just to Google.
Let me get that guy name. No, I'd love to know. But man, think about it. If he can do that.
His name is.
Have you saw? Has he done a TED talk? I think I saw a guy.
He was on Vice, and he was on.
Do a TED talk on this subject. Yeah, we go. Yeah, good man.
He was on Vice, and he was on Joe Rogan, I think.
Like, if this guy can do glasses, like bald glasses,
he's a big fat dude, and I think he's like a blues musician, and that's where he met the first KKK head that he converted, was he was standing in for another musician at a gig in some bogan town.
Wow.
If you would type in Joe Rogan KKK, I think it'll come up. You get his name.
Probably lots of other things.
Daryl Davis.
He does do a TED talk, man.
Right, yeah.
This guy.
So we were, division looks sort of rampant and around the place at the moment, around the world, and you just touched on it there, especially if you look at the US, and you said something, because I was already thinking that, like, the US is too big to be a microcosm, but it's almost like a catalyst for trends, socially, financially, politically, culturally. It always sort of has been.
Yeah, for sure, man, yeah.
Like, in the last year, we've seen the US be, like, maybe potentially looking like they were on the brink of civil war, or, pockets of civil unrest that were huge. There was, and and this is where I'm sort of going, you remember there was after the George Floyd thing, a guy was shot in the back as he was getting into his car like 6 or 7 times by a police officer.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just, and obviously it's more the same, and it's apparent, and it's like, it's something that we can't really get our heads around because we're totally outside that situation on a white privilege level, and also on the fact that we're not there. You know what I mean? We can't even see from our privilege standpoint the real practical sort of viciousness of it and whatever. But then that evening or in the days that followed, there was protests and whatever. But there was like this group of armed militia heads just, we're protecting this business, this local business, we're protecting this local business. And all these then, a melee breaks out and a 17-year-old boy ends up shooting someone through the arm. Do you remember this? Shot one lad through the head, shot one lad through the arm, and then he's getting chased down and he's to where the cops are, and he sort of turns and falls on his back and
in Kenosha.
shoots another guy in
Kenosha.
Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
He had like a body
they all
brace
think, though,
thing
you want to
with
see
his...
the fucking, you want to see the 10-minute like, look at that poor little fucking dope. Here's my things. He doesn't know anything. That little moron. Look at him there running down with his gun looking like Shia LaBeouf. He doesn't know anything. Like, he doesn't have the fucking cognitive makeup or experience to sort of to be there in the fucking first place. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's just like, if he's an idea, like if that's for me, it's just like not, an extreme right, blah, blah. He's a stupid, scared little kid who landed on that side of the dynamic. He didn't land on the left side of the dynamic. He landed on the right side, but he's still just a fucking little kid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so it's very, when you see that sort of stuff, you're like going, fucking hell, because I know, and this might be an unpopular thing to say, his life is ruined.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's ruined obviously lots of other people.
Do you remember what you were like when you were 17? What your thought processes are like, what your rationale and your sort of...
It
was ridiculous. For me, it was just like, I would have done anything, or I could just put myself in that situation almost.
I mean, like you say, it is impossible to know what it's like over there and everything with the availability of guns and the attitude towards them and everything. I mean, I even remember when we were driving through America a number of years ago when it was actually legal to travel to other countries. We were like...
He's a COVID denier.
We'd be going through... Yeah, that sounds bad. But,
no, I'm only messing.
Remember...
Because we're going to do a COVID podcast anyway.
Eventually. But I mean, yeah, God, well, hopefully we will again one day. But, I mean, you kind of like, when you're driving out through the big western wilds or whatever, you're kind of like, you do get it a little bit. You're like passing by these old shacks up on a hill somewhere and going... Yeah, look, if I lived there in the middle of nowhere,
who knows?
I would want to have a gun on me. Yeah, or whatever. But guys like this, I have no idea what he's hearing. Or
he's a moron. He's obviously a moron. But
he doesn't exist in a vacuum either, you know.
But he's only 17 years of age. All 17-year-olds are moron. It's just then it just gets to get whatever. I just wanted to mention him because I just thought at the time when I watched that, like I saw the people getting shot on the video. It was some really extreme shit.
Yeah, man.
But so I read somewhere that America is two countries that don't understand each other, and that just went ding ding ding. That is just a perfect little analogy for what the States is like, and what we're talking about. This was going to bring us straight into, like, I know what. Like Trump, for instance, obviously a very divisive character. And in fact, I won't say much until I ask you what's your take on the Donald Trump situation? Not necessarily like, what do you think is Donald Trump as president? I don't really give a fuck. But what are your just some general thoughts on that whole, on America from 2016 to 2020?
On that movement, I mean, when you look at like, obviously 70 million people or whatever voted for him. Now, that's not nothing. That is a huge swath, and it's so easy to kind of... I mean, look, like, we look at him and we just think, how could you possibly... Like, all the warning signs are there. Like, I don't care what I don't care what your political persuasions are. When he's on there going, and I spoke to a general who told me the nuclear is tippy top. And like, what? Just get Get him out of there! Get him out of there! How could you possibly leave this tippy top? The nuclear, is that the technical tippy? Is like, where is that on the scale of like, oh yeah, sir, we've the plutonium is in top grade tippy
Some of
top.
the best, in fact, they said the best plutonium they'd ever
plutonium
seen. Better than anyone
I've ever
else's.
seen. It's become more beautiful.
It's fabulous. It's so fabulous.
But I'm saying the conservative movement, which does represent I would say definitely less than half the population, less maybe than it used to, certainly, but it's still a big chunk of it. It's like their leaders have just gotten so decrepit because it feels like a lot of their positions aren't really tenable anymore. Like they used to have John McCain, do you know what I mean? He was a fucking amazing dude, Vietnam War vet, very reasonable guy.
Okay.
You used to have all these guys who were actually respectable. I mean, they've still got Mitt Romney, who's the best of a bad bunch. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's still quite a religious, right-wing religious nut or whatever.
That's giving me warning signs.
But I'm saying,
when I hear right-wing religious nut, I'm just sort of
that's the best. That's the best they kind of have. But
man, that guy Romney's okay.
But this what I'm saying. It's like
God.
It's like they're kind of looking like, well, Jesus. I mean, I'll vote for this guy if that's all we have or whatever. Yeah. So how do you, like you said, that's a really good point, Manus. I mean, two countries that don't understand each other, like basically the coasts and then the middle, more or less.
Yeah, because it's hugely,
right?
well, but 100%. I mean, America is this coastal centric place, and that, because the thing that got me about the Trump situation was the narrative, and it happened quite quickly after he was elected in 2016. And where I first sort of saw it was usually on things like English game shows or English talk shows where they would have American guests, and they would do this sort of this apologetic, like apologist routine about, oh, we don't know how this happened and it's such a nightmare, and so I know how it happened. I know how it happened. You have like over 100 million people right down the middle of your coastal centric country that you've forgotten about. Yeah. Like literally, you've forgotten about them. Yeah. But the funny thing about, like, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, Trump is a populist leader. Yeah. And we see that. And because here's another thing. Right recently we've had, and you want to say whatever you want to say, it wasn't a coup or an insurgency, but right-wing nuts stormed government buildings and trashed the place. Yeah. That's the same sort of political violence and discourse you see in like embryonic democracies, like down in Central and South America, in the Balkan states, places like this. You would see that sort of stuff because, like, even when my brother was working over in Kosovo, at one stage a load of nutcases ran in and just trashed the ballot station and stuff like that. And that sort of political unrest or political violence you see in unstable democracies around the world and sort of embryonic democracies, but to see it happen over in the States was like, wow, like to see it.
It's kind of funny, like, because I mean, a couple of thousand of them, and yeah, I mean, they got into the capital and everything, but it's the fact that it's almost like, again, I was reading this to your man Harari this morning. He makes a really good point. It's like a little coin in a big jar. It's when political violence has been like wiped out, the tiniest little bit of it
looks extreme.
It looks extreme.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if we were to find out that was happening in Lagos or lots of places,
we're just like, oh yeah, fucking makes sense.
Where violence is more common, you just kind of go, why are you even telling me about that? It's like, really? Just, even 10 times the number of people died. You're telling me this isn't...
I know, but it's all like interwoven there because, like you said, we don't expect to see it there.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't expect to see political violence like that. We don't expect to see a populist leader. And here's the other thing, is if you don't have a look at those socio-economic problems that allow a situation like a populist leader to be elected, that allow that to happen, it's just going to happen in another 8 to 12 years. They mightn't even get that far. And here's another thing. This is what fucking drives me crazy. Like, and there's Michael Rappaport. He's giving out every day about fucking dick stain Donald Trump. And I think it's really funny. I really like Michael Rappaport. And he rants really well. And he's got a fucking quintessential sort of New York accent. I love to hear him say fucking shit. And
yeah.
I love that. But at the same time, I just feel like going, here, Mick, let's be real here. You trying to tell me that America was like the fucking land of the free and the home of brave 5 years ago? Like, you're being a warmongering, interventionist, national security state, obsessed with the industrial military complex and fucking big pharma and all this lobbyists you've lobbyists in your government for however many years. Like, pull the fucking other one. Donald Trump is not the problem. He's a symptom. He's a byproduct of your broken system. And if you don't
The
look
president
at that,
is just kind of the poster boy anyway. Like,
in the States, for definite, 100%. So,
oh, look, how could you? I mean, it's almost like, how could you keep a string on a country that size? But you know what, as well, man, I think is that lots of people, and we were actually talking about this in the last podcast, the first one we did, that these people, hundreds of millions of them, who live in just the middle of America, in these places that the military industrial complex, that's kind of gone now. All those factories are abandoned, all those mines and everything. They call them the flyover states. Remember we were saying that?
because you just fly over them.
Because planes just fly over them. Nobody lands there, you know what I mean? They barely service the airports anymore. They're literally just forgotten about, and they've kind of forgotten about the rest of the world to an extent as well. Like, I remember, Rob, actually, do you remember that? What's the name of that Kings of Leon documentary? Tallahassee Nights, is it? Or
Talahina Sky.
Talahina Sky, Tallahassee. Tala Nights.
Ricky Babbitt.
But
Don't worry about it. It's grand.
But Rob's just fitting a new door in more into this. But going door to door, selling doors.
Piece of shit.
Hey, tell us about how's your year been? But Talahina Sky. And there, it's like the Followill boys or whatever go back to whatever town it is in Louisiana they're from. It would be Talahina, right? Thank you.
No,
Thank
I
you.
think Talladega, no?
Talladega. Oh, fuck this. But they're back there anyway.
Can they drive, those lads?
I don't know why.
Forget about it. It's all... Keep going, Talahina. They go back to
Oh,
their
I see. I don't know what to do with my hands. But they go back. Anyway, the point is that people who live in the trailer park that they come from or whatever only realise they're famous when they're on an episode of The Price is Right, because there's like a year's worth of Rolling Stone magazine has been given as a prize and they're on one of the front covers. And they're like, hey, it's the Followill boys. Like, they've been selling millions of albums all around the world.
So insular, disconnected.
And this is the thing I'm saying. Those people, they give less of a shit about who's president of America than we do. Like, when you
But they
go
obviously
there,
don't now. They've obviously been looking at, like, Hillary, Bush, Obama. Like, they all look the same. They all look... It doesn't matter if it's Democratic, Republican. They don't understand. It's not like that. It's just like, well, he just looks like the same person who was here for the last 4 years and they didn't help me, and so on and so forth, even on that sort of low level. And here comes a fucking permatan, toupee wearing fucking Mongo who looks like them, walks like them, talks like them, just doesn't give a fuck like them.
Yeah,
but he
sir.
speaks their language.
Yeah, he speaks in these kind of short sentences. He says things about whatever. And again, that's not to just write them all off like they're low intelligent. I'm saying they really, if you were to go out to them, they wouldn't be standing on their porch going, well, I just feel like Obama did blah, blah, blah. They're just kind of like, yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, that Trump fella just seems to, like, they're very casual about it. Like,
But that's maybe the central... But what about the guys you see in Jordan Kepler goes to fucking...
Oh, of course,
Trump
no. The people who
Red
show
Ball
up at
pussy.
the rallies. The people who show up at the rallies are Trump that bitch. People who lock her up. All of this.
Trump that bitch.
You know
Like,
what I mean?
if I was a politician and pouch that bitch, I'd just be like, God, shut up.
That's not insane. That is the stuff you say, like, very privately. I remember, and actually, I think, who's your man, Jon Stewart said something very similar. But the first rally he ever did, and was like a fake one in Trev. You watched that Fahrenheit 11/9?
No.
It was like this fake rally he did, because he basically set up this fake kind of presidential campaign in order to try get more money out of CBS or whoever it was, whatever show The Apprentice was on, or whatever channel even, I'm not even sure. But anyway, so we had this fake rally in the lobby of Trump Towers, and he's coming down the stairs, and he just hired actors who were all paid like $50 to be there for an hour. And he gets in front of the podium, and it was a fake stub speech. All he had to do was go and go, I believe we can really come together as Americans, and America is great, and we're going to get the economy back working. But he comes out and goes, and the Mexicans Americans, they're all rapists and murderers, and they're coming across the border, and you're just like, and as John Sears is just like, oh, this guy's disqualified. He's automatically just disqualified.
No, that's your
himself.
next president.
You're not allowed. You're just you literally you're not allowed to say that. You're supposed to dog whistle. You know dog whistling. You know that thing.
No.
Dog whistle, really interesting concept where you use code words.
Okay.
So you're basically saying to your supporters, like back in the day, like Nixon and all would have said law and order, which meant suppressing the black unrest as it was known. So when they talk about we need to bring law and order back into America, the press couldn't get him on it, but what he's really saying to conservatives is
we'll sort out them black
we're
lives,
gonna put Martin Luther King down and all this kind of shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, look, I mean, again, so the thing that's we mentioned earlier on, what did you say exactly there? There was something you said about America, and it was along the lines of it sort of as a trendsetter, or it's.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
The shining city on a hill, as they used to say. Yeah.
The shining city on a hill.
And they say that's changing, but anyway, yeah.
Well, one thing I then, we had a situation here in Ireland just a couple of weeks ago that looked a bit like what you'd see in the US, and that was the shooting of. And now I hope I say this young man's name right, George in Kencho.
I think that's right, yeah.
I think that's right. And so, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, but I think everyone knows, George in Kencho was a young man, black Irish dude who essentially had a psychotic episode or a mental health episode and went down to the local shop. And what we definitely know, I'm pretty sure, is that he attacked one person and brandished a knife.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, because I don't know, right? Here we go.
Yeah.
I think the guards are systemically racist and classist and misogynistic. I think that they're brainwashed in Templemore. I think if it's the biggest boys club in the country, and if you by default, I dislike you almost if you're a guard. No, not almost. By default,
okay.
I dislike you because I feel like you've been brainwashed in Templemore. And when I look at what they did to Maurice McCabe when he tried to speak out against corruption within the force, like they tried to ruin that man's life. And I just feel that that's probably what happens all the time.
So is this the guy that nailed a rat to his door and all this kind of stuff?
Well, they got onto Tuesday, and there was some allegation that he had sexually abused his child. Totally erroneous, crazy shit that they really pushed through. And he was trying to sort of go, look, you can't just not give your mates speeding tickets, and you can't strike out X, Y, and Z. And I'm not getting into that because as far as I'm concerned, for me, my opinion is that it's a fucking boys club, and I'm. I feel like I know, and obviously I know nothing but my own truths, but I feel like I know that systemically the guards are racist and classist. They're classist. They think they're better than people. They think they're better than the working classes, and you see that by the way they interact with working class people in this town even, where we live, in Bray, in County Wicklow. And we own them fuckers. We pay their wages. But anyway, what I will say is this, at the risk of sounding like Gemma O'Doherty there for a second, what I will say is this, is that I can't help but feel that guy did get shot 5 times outside his house because he was black. I don't think that would have happened to a white dude. Because I don't think it had to happen. More to the point, I don't think it had to happen. I think they could have got 3 lads with a big fucking shield thing. What do you call them? A shield. Like a riot gear heads with a fucking bat in each. Just swamp him and bang his legs out, and he's done here. We're done here.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did say, now this is just my opinion, I'd like to get what you think. They did say that they tased the guy and rubber bulleted him, and I'm just like going, and pepper sprayed him. Was it pepper spray, taser, and rubber bullets? I think they said. But I'm like going, did you fuck, man? Did you fuck? Show me when you did that, because that lad that you have on the screen there, if he fucking was tased and shot with rubber bullets and pepper spray, he'd be on the ground in bits, man. Yeah. That's what I think. He's not a fucking superhuman. And I suppose... What the fuck is that?
Is that the battery on this thing after going? Is it alright?
Keep going.
Okay, so I suppose...
A fax just came in there from Garda headquarters. Here, Ruben.
Yeah. I just thought that looked a little bit like... Because, I mean, again... there was another instance there that I was just trying to think of. But...
Sorry, keep going. SD card full.
I definitely just, yeah, that's what I'm saying, I suppose. I just think that that situation was coloured. I don't think, A, that the guy had to be shot. Like, why couldn't they just let him walk into his house and then try and break it down from there? You know what I mean? Do a standoff and deal with the situation. But what, so I don't really know, like, sorry, you might just have to do a
No,
little cut
man, look,
here.
All right, we'll take our time with all this. Yeah.
But my point is that, like, okay, so just as a matter of fact, what's your opinion on that? What I've just said there, Len, that I think the fact that he was killed, shot 5 times, was tipped, the balance was tipped by some sort of racial undertone. That's not to say that I think the guard was a fucking neo-Nazi or was saying, I'm going to fucking kill this beep, 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 whatever the derogatory slur is. But
the beeps came in too early there from this fella.
But I think that, like, what do you think about that? I think there was some little thing inside him that...
repercussions kind of thing.
Less repercussions or more just...
yeah.
Was it a fear? Like,
Yeah, I
did
know
he
what
think
you're
that...
saying, yeah.
Like, do you have some linked in, like... I don't know, maybe just like
But I mean,
a nervousness to it or something.
similarly, and it is racism as well. Like if he'd been a traveller, that it would probably be the same thing. If he'd
No
been a member
fucking
of
way
the
they would have
traveller.
shot a traveller. Not in
Really,
a million
yeah?
years. No fucking way. And I think the reason
But
being...
do you think they would be more inclined to shoot a traveller than if he was some guy having an episode going round with a jumper crossed around his arms, talking in a South Dublin
I don't think
accent?
they'd be more likely to shoot him. I think they'd be more likely just to go, shut the fuck, and wade right in there and bait the bollocks out of him. I think there's no way the guards would shoot a traveller.
I
I just don't think it would ever get there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that because again, I think that for definite, I think they'd face a bigger backlash.
Look, man, I don't know what the
I think it's a
facts-
more rooted. I think it's a more rooted community, if you understand what I'm saying. The travelling community,
yeah.
they've more ability to mobilise and to sort of.
Yeah.
Still, they get, you know what I mean?
I'm not for one.
Oh, no,
sorry,
they get
and
huge abuse.
listen,
Yeah, huge abuse. Incredible
100%.
abuse.
And when I
Discrimination,
said there, I would say the guards treat travellers like shit because, like I've said, I think the guards are classes. I've seen it. I've been spoken to by guards who think they're better than me because even because of the hat that I'd wear or the fact that I don't have tax on my card, they just flip into this mode of malevolence and talking to you like you're dirt.
Yeah.
And that's when I just go, see you, mate. Your actual job is to police the community, to be a pillar of the community, an integral cog of the community, and help the people in which the community that you police, not to alienate yourself from them and fucking impoverish them further. Like by, you know what I mean? Because it's always people with no and little money get fucked over by the guards. I don't want to get too much into the guards thing.
Well, all I can
But
say
I would
is,
like to ask you that. Sorry, what's your opinion on
Well,
what I've just said there?
all I can say is that, you know, I remember when I first heard about it, when I heard that a guy had been shot in where was it again? It was around around Blanchardstown, wasn't it? It was somewhere up north.
Yes.
And my immediate thought was it a white guy? Was it a black guy? And when I found out,
Really, yeah.
well, immediately, yeah, because I mean, again, that's the political kind of climate that we're in as well.
But
you
I
know,
mean,
but-
is that and again, coming from a place of total, I suppose, white privilege.
yeah.
Okay, I tell you what. I like the fact that we don't see very much of that in Ireland. I like the fact, two things. I like the fact that we don't see, and that's not to say there's no racism in Ireland. I'm not saying that.
Of course there is.
Of
Yeah.
course there is. I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying that I just like to see, we don't really see people getting shot often in Ireland by the police.
Yeah.
We don't really, like, obviously there's the drug feud thing which becomes its own little bubble and people, and I'm not just excusing that, but like we don't really just see random, like, chap had an episode. Like that young man, like I could relate to that so much because he's obviously having a mental health issue. It sort of goes over the edge of a psychotic episode or a mental illness, or you know what I mean? And he gets up and he's just like, fuck it. But I bet you he never thought, like, he probably never rationalised what's going to happen past just going down and doing this thing. But to think that you die at the end of it.
It's impossible. This is the thing. There's so many the limits to our knowledge or our possibility of knowledge. Like what I first heard was what they said on the news report, which was obviously what the official statement the guards had made, which was that they'd cautioned them to drop the weapon several times. They'd used rubber bullets. They'd used whatever. You're disputing that. That's interesting. You know,
I mean, I would just assume that if someone tased me,
Yeah.
I'm fucking, like, you know, bit bigger than this dude. I mean, I don't even know if that makes a difference if
Yeah.
you get tased or whatever. But it's like, if some motherfucker tased me, shot me with rubber bullet spray, pepper spray in my eye,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm on the ground, writhing around in pain, man. What the fuck are we trying to... Who is this, Wolverine?
Yeah.
Like, you know, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm not. What I'm saying is, I'm not even going to
I
speculate.
could imagine it was just like, yeah, we fired the rubber bullets. They're just like shooting tasers into the air, and then it's just like, boom. But maybe I'm being a towel.
But look, that's what I'm saying. I think it's
And
almost,
I don't mean to be facetious or flippant there.
but it's almost impossible to speculate. Or of course, it's possible to speculate, but it's almost pointless speculating exactly what happened. All I can tell you is my reaction was when I heard about this and when it started kicking off online, the different sites warn about it. In my gut was this say it ain't so feeling, and I'll cop to that. I did not want to live in a country where the police do this. Do you know what I mean?
That is exactly the word for word. That is my thoughts.
I really
I
did
don't
not
want to
believe
live
it.
in a country, and that was the point I was trying to make there. I don't want to live in that country.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm proud of, the fact that we don't live in that country. My brother made a point to me, because my brother has lived all over the world, and he works for the UN, and he sees a lot of sort of... Well, one thing he said to me, he's like, do you know what's great about Ireland? We don't have a real right-wing political party.
Yeah.
Like, as in, we don't have a BNP, like anything with substance. And remember those... Do you remember... I'm finding it hard to place time-wise, but I remember maybe 7-8 years ago, and maybe not that long ago, and in fact maybe even longer ago, so I'm talking shit here, but definitely at one point a guy from the BNP or the British Nationalist Party was coming over to do...
The big ears or something, was it?
I can't really remember, but he was coming over to Ireland. He'd been invited over by some, you know, we're a real fucking group of people with real, you know, issues and all. And it turns out it's 10 lads or something that got this guy from the BNP to come over and do a rally. And to get a load of working class fucking headbangers from Sheriff Street turn up and bait that bollocks out of them. And I was just like that day I was like, oh man, I'm fucking proud to be Irish.
Fucking A, man.
One thing that was really upsetting, I don't know if upsetting is the right word, but one thing that was just like, oh fuck, that doesn't look good for humanity, was in the wake of that shooting, there was all the fucking right-wing lunatics came out and were like, see this fucking blah, 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 whatever it is. Like, at one point there was, because I was talking to a friend, he was like, you walk around with a knife, you get blasted. And I was like, fuck that, no you don't. Doesn't happen. Like, especially if you're black. He was like, especially if you've got previous. And I was like, let's have a conversation about that then. And we searched online, George and Kencho previous record, George and Kencho criminal record, whatever. Nothing. Not a thing about it. And then a couple of days later, this was like on the day it happened or the day after it happened, we were having that conversation, and maybe the next day or the day after that, the guards put out an article or a statement to say that this man had no previous record with us. No, unknown to us. This is a guy having a mental health episode, and it ended in tragedy, which it surely did. And like at one point, someone put up a picture of a Millwall, or if someone had been slashed at an Everton football game and said, this is what that fucking such and such did. And that's the
rumour mill or whatever. Do you remember
That's
there
just-
somebody machete, and like you were saying, somebody said that knowing
that it was bullshit.
It was bullshit. Isn't
Yeah,
that
someone
somebody
posted that picture of that Everton playing, knowing. And again, that's how technology is like petrol for these situations. It's a
I think the impulse there is, it's like being back in the playground, only more nefarious and far more insidious. It goes back to that little power, that little kick people have of going, yeah, I've just made a bunch of people furious for no fucking reason. Do you know what I mean?
Surely the person who did that is really unhappy.
Come on, of course.
Of course.
It's like anyone. It's like you got look at YouTube comments. I mean, 90% of the people who are commenting on or on Twitter even are like. I think it's so funny that Twitter is like birdsong. I don't know if you can hear It's like the symbol, like tweets, as if like when they
It's
designed
a
it.
lovely little thing.
Yeah, but it was
It's a
just
tweet.
waking up in the morning, tweet, instead of.
What noises do Angry Birds make?
Yeah, exactly. Only for real, man. Yeah, but and
Twitter's a joke anyway. I'm not on Twitter, but it's a joke.
And they say, actually, they kind of say that if it weren't for Trump, it would have died actually 4 or 5 years ago. You know?
Twitter, right,
That's
okay.
Another thing, he sort of revived it, which is ironic that they ultimately banned them or whatever.
And I mean, that's the thing. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But one thing I wanted to ask you then, Glenn, was, do you think, and this is potentially controversial, or this is where you might potentially catch some flack, is like, because in the wake of the George and Kensho thing, I felt that people were, or let me just ask you straight out, do you think people hijack these movements or these social issues to virtue signal?
Yeah, and it's actually, I mean, absolutely, of course, and that's not to say that everybody who got involved is doing
really
that.
Important point to make.
But literally, man, this is a, you know, in a wider sense, there's money to be made from on either side, right? You have loads of people on the extreme left who, I mean, you know, you could argue your man Sean King now, or you know, or various. There's so many of them on the left.
What could we argue, Sean King? Go on, say it there. What could I argue about Sean King? Because very peculiar.
He's his own. He's a very interesting entity in himself, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I more think there's people out there who are constantly keeping an eye on what's going on and seeing where they can weigh in, because it'll get them reposts, it'll get them retweets, it'll get them whatever. And on the right, they're almost more known on the right. You have, particularly over in Britain, we have Piers Morgan, who is British over in America, but you have, what's her name, Katie Hopkins, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Famously just picks fights with Marcus Rashford or whoever, knowing that people will just either be outraged or retweet her.
Clickbait, almost.
That's exactly it, man. It's
Gemma Doherty.
we have Gemma Doherty,
Doherty.
right? But the point is, it's literally
What happened to Gemma Doherty, huh?
what happened to her? Where did she go wrong? But literally, what's so terrifying is that there's money to be made now. That there's people who can actually monetize.
When you say you can monetize, is that because you can improve your foothold on a social media level, or a sort of like, because the question, because I was asking, do people hijack these movements to virtue signal? And another sort of the follow on to that is, do people in the entertainment industry do the same to further their career?
Yeah, no, that's another one.
And here's a classic case in America, was the whole Jesse Smollett.
Yes, good.
Like, that was
fucking point, man.
bizarre.
That is crazy,
Wasn't
isn't
it?
it? I love seeing Chappelle talk about that. Like, can you imagine being the cop who had to take down those details or whatever? You went out in Chicago, 2 a.m, for, in 20-degree weather, for sandwiches, Subway. All right. Two guys approached you, and the fact that they were like, "Hey, you're that bleep off Empire," and it's like, wow, really? 2 white MAGA hat wearing motherfuckers watch Empire?
It's just, he just wants to slip in. I'm on Empire.
Yeah, Empire.
Multi-award nominated.
Yeah, and they said, you're that guy from Empire, which is on 8 o'clock NBC Tuesday evenings. New series starting on whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, kind of hilarious, but man, yeah,
But dangerous
sure.
as well.
Yeah.
And just so divisive, because, okay, so here's the thing, right? And eventually I had said to Rob, look at Rob just sitting over there looking at me. I had said that I was going to talk about this situation and sort of keep it anonymous to the sort of people involved. But then I was thinking, and I was doing that for some strange reason. Number one, maybe I didn't want to create controversy, and but then am I saying that for myself? I just don't want to create controversy for myself. Whatever the thing is, I'm not going to do that, because it's a thing that happened, and so let's just talk about it and talk about the people that were involved in it, because I'm not I just want to have a conversation about it. So in this country, we had a situation a while ago where a female recording artist, performer in this country, Erica Cody, mixed race, black girl, Irish black girl, she took to Instagram, and I actually saw it happen, unfold in real time. She took to Instagram and accused Casper Walsh and from Versatile of a sort of, because the weird thing about it was, and I tell you, I'm just telling you my thoughts again, just telling you how I felt, right? When I saw it unfold, because number one, in the video, she didn't identify the perpetrator. It was in the comment section. I'm pretty sure it was the top comment was, oh, I'm talking about Casper Walsh from Versatile, by the way. The other thing was that she never actually said the words, like, he racially attacked me, or this is a racial attack. There was implications. I think it was split almost between two sentences, you know, so that there was ambiguity attached to it. And for me, as I was watching it, I was thinking, and maybe I'm an asshole, but I was thinking, are you being so ambiguous because then it's easier to defend it if it doesn't? It's just something seemed a bit off about it to me. It's just like, if this thing was a thing, you would just fucking say it outright. Listen here, you fucking XYZ, you fucking did this. Let me just also say, Casper Walsh obviously looks like a total little scrot. Not the sort of lad I'd be liking to hang around with. When Versatile came out, they have definitely racially insensitive lyrics.
It's that old thing. Yeah.
100%. But at the same time, when they came out, I was just like, I was actually a little bit shocked when I first heard Versatile because of the sort of
Climate now.
yeah, well, no, but it was previous to that. But just I was like going, whoa, you know, certain bits of what they were saying, or the sort of freeness is the wrong word, but the sort of like
liberty takers.
Whatever it was I just was like, wow, that's fairly intense. But so then the way I sort of processed that was like going, everyone knows this is bollocks. Like, I don't even see them. It doesn't even look like it has artistic merit to me necessarily. So, I mean, that's just the point I'm trying to make about that. But obviously this guy, Casper Walsh, looks like a little bit of a scrot, and, you know, I would just look at him and go, oh, okay, that's who he is or whatever. But he then, as a rebuttal to the situation or to her accusations, he released two videos. One that he had taken himself of the situation, because what Erica had said is that he blocked her in, and the implication was that it was a racially motivated attack or intimidation. Now, I'm not trying to take away from the fact that Erica Cody might have felt intimidated. I don't live in her truth. I didn't grow up as a mixed race person in this country, so I'm not, you know, I can't pretend to understand where she's coming from. But Casper Walsh released two videos, one from CCTV of the car park they were in, and one that he had taken himself. And what I took from his videos was not that this was a racial attack. What I took from his videos was he's a little sap. This guy's a little, hey, Erica, and actually when you look at it, he sort of pulls up, just goes, all right, Erica, and drives off. Little sap, probably trying to be a little dick. But was he trying to be, and I'm not saying he wasn't, I'm just trying to have a conversation about the fact that, was he trying to racially attack her? Because from where I was, and I don't think I'm alone in this thing, I think potentially it blew up in Erica Cody's face a little bit. Like, for me, it didn't look like a racially motivated attack. And I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm saying. And I don't think that other people saw it as a racially motivated attack. So what I'm sort of getting at is that that sort of stuff widens the gap on so many levels, because it's like, I just think it widens the gap on a load of levels because it kills conversation.
Fans the flames or whatever. Yeah,
but it's also like going, because one of the major things is, if you're all right with this, then you're a racist. And I'm going, well, if I think that this doesn't look like a racially motivated attack, are you saying I'm racist? And that's a very difficult place to have a conversation in.
I think you're right. I mean, but I think as well, for example, my position, though, I don't know jack about shit really, but is ambiguous. I kind of feel I would give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. That I don't feel like I have to come down on it one way or the other.
Do you remember the situation?
I remember, I was seeing this, somebody showed it to me or whatever. I mean, yeah, because
I'm only saying my opinion. I'd love to know exactly what you think about
my
it.
My thoughts would be similar to yours, but again, I don't think you have to come down one way or the other. Like I'm not that. My thing would be, if there is a discussion to be had there, let's have a discussion. What you're absolutely right about is that I remember when we looked it up, somebody did a video, some Irish lad did a video about it, trashing her
Yeah,
and
I
throwing
saw
in
that
all of his
video.
own racist
Yeah,
shit
I
about
saw
George
that.
Floyd over in America.
Yeah.
So already it's like the hackles are up on both sides, and suddenly it's just these two warring over each other. And you're I would consider myself a reasonable person in the middle, kind of going, Jesus, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That becomes my position. Look, I mean, we weren't there, man. We won't know. Is our opinion really important? I don't know. It's a funny thing. It's a funny situation to sort of be in. But I think it is definitely.
Do you think it could have been motivated by the fact that they are more successful artistically than her?
I mean, for example, I didn't know who she is until this happened, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. I mean, you could call that an unintended consequence. It is hard to say. It is definitely true, though. It is definitely true that there are people out there on all kinds of social media platforms who thrive on. I mean, the social media itself, the algorithm thrives on these. Like, I remember, man, I was saying about Jordan Peterson or whatever. I don't want to, defend the guy or nothing, or say I'm a supporter. A mate of mine, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, sent me this podcast he did with Joe Rogan, and I watched it. And ever since then, I've never watched another one of his videos. Ever since then, the algorithm keeps throwing up these, and they're always block capitals. Jordan Peterson destroys feminist SJW and blah blah blah. And it's like, I don't want to watch any of these destroys videos. Do you know what I mean? Or on the other side,
but here's the thing is, he doesn't destroy them either. Jordan Peterson just sort of goes, well, let's have a talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. And that's what people can't handle with Jordan Peterson. He's like, going, I don't know. I just want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he obviously has this sort of he's on the spectrum a little bit, Jordan Peterson. He's got that, he can be very cut and dry, and rather than sort of, he doesn't go in for fluff. He's just like, what's that? Let's talk about that. I think that. Am I right? Am I wrong? And you're like, and people are going to be like, oh no, I don't know. It's just like, no, I'm just practically moving through this so we can fucking progress and have resolution.
That's the thing now that I watched, or that my mate sent me, was the Channel 4, that famous, as far as I remember, that famous interview with them that the lady on Channel 4 does. What was it? Rebecca something, was it? No, was it Kathy something? Where she'd obviously had it in her head that I'm going to take this guy down. And I mean, whatever. Kathy Newman, well done. Whatever. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter what your politics are. From what I remember, he seems like he's got quite a Christian ethos, which maybe wouldn't be my thing. But in fairness, I will respect anyone who respects debate, who respects just actual calm, intelligent conversation. Like, who's the other guy?
I really like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah,
I have to say. And I know it's not necessarily a popular.
See, this is the thing. Because I remember chatting about him, and obviously, like, I went to a lot of my mates I know from college or whatever, from Acton College, very liberal kind of set or whatever, and I quickly learned to just never mention the guy's name. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's just not worth it.
Exactly, but that's the death of conversation, because that's like you're going, hey, I'm not even bothered.
You've used that code word that from what I read into, or from that's like a immediate no, we're done here kind of thing. We walk away. Yeah, it is troubling, man. It is.
What happened? I noticed in the wake of that Erica Cody versus Talk, within hours there was this call to arms on social media to deplatform Versatile, right? For this guy had said that in 40 Stars video. And again, I'm not defending Versatile. I'm not saying I'm with Versatile and I'm against Erica Cody. I'm against the way in which we're dealing with the social issues at the crux of you know what I mean? And so that cancel culture sort of stuff, to me, or the deplatforming thing, that is totalitarian in nature. It's censorship in nature. And like we talked about Twitter and YouTube, if Twitter and YouTube don't agree with what you say, they just censor you. And people can go, well, it's a private company and we don't have to, give oxygen to hate or something. It's just like, Well, yes, it is, but it's sort of contemporary. It's publication company in the 21st century, and surely we have an oath or something. I can't think of the word.
A duty of
A
care
duty,
or
exactly,
something,
as humans to sort of discuss all things, because that's how we get real resolution. And for me, the left used to be the voice of reason, the sort of open-minded one, not afraid of a good ruck, but ultimately always looking for conversation, change, real progress. And you touched on something earlier on, and I just wanted to sort of say, I think human beings do need that duality, that night versus day, the yin and yang of situations. And we've moved away from that because it's not yin and yang. What's happened is we've turned into, so the left has now mirrored the narrow-minded aggression of the right, but for their...
They've upped the ante,
but it's like they're not the voice of reason. It's not as if they're almost actually centrist, trying to go, look, are you sure about that? Let's have a conversation about that. Up to the point, there's no fucking way that's the way things should be. But it was not like just like fucking rhetoric. Like the right are great at rhetoric, but now the left are just that. They're the mirrored, so they're the inverted. You know, rather than being sort of the opposite, because surely like the opposite of fucking being a right-wing lunatic is being like a total liberal hippie fucking sort of headbangers
you
whatever,
think
bro.
totally
But
chill
that's
out
now it's like the left has become, they haven't like, it's not mirrored in opinion, it's mirrored in aggression, and that sort of, like, it's really narrow-minded at times. Like, it's like, fuck off, you don't think this, fuck you don't think that, fuck you. What, libtards? I'm just like not with it. And like I have a friend who's a real libtard, Bjor, and she was like saying about Twitter, and she was like, it's a private company. And I was like, yeah, it is a fucking private company, but like, do you want to live in a world like even that? Because it's still censorship. Private company or not, it's censorship. So it's technocratic fucking dictatorship. Yeah. Like, it's because it stepped outside of governments. Governments aren't censoring people anymore. Companies are. That's fucking technocratic dictatorship.
Yeah. Well, but they still adhere so much to their users or whatever. And I think when you mentioned about cancel culture and everything, like, that's what the press, particularly the tabloid press, used to do more on the right-wing side than anything. Like, it was always such and such as cocaine, shame, or whatever in the red tops on a Monday morning.
Sensationalist.
They loved the idea of taking a TV star, like, I don't know, let's say some TV presenter, and going and splashing it around, like, you know, such and such, or like John Rhys Mears or whoever, like, he had a breakdown in some airport with
hate that lad.
Bottle of alcohol. Okay, whatever. Whatever, but
I'm not for the role of best actor.
But the
because guess what, mate? You're not.
But they
get your Ugg boots and fuck off.
Best actor in the rehab clinic. No, but no,
he's not.
That's awful. But
he's not even. It's way better actors in rehab.
There's Johnny pretending any of this works. He's gone clean. No, but they love the power. The press, the media, the kind of tabloids love their power of being able to take somebody down. And now with the era of social media, that power has been handed off to just random cunts. Kind of anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I was having this thinking, it's like, this goes for, you're afraid of getting cancelled by the extreme left or getting doxxed by the extreme right, where they'll hack you and put your address and all this shit up online or whatever, and people come and stalk you at your house. But
sounds great.
But this sounds awesome, right? But the
sounds better than Tinder.
But the that's what you want. Some of these crazy
bitches,
Nazi bitches. But the
always
thing,
the best sex. Anyway,
but the thing, it's for another time. But the I think it's kind of like They used to have these, what are they called? My brain is working on the same place. The tricotos, right? The tricotos, who were these ladies, they were like war widows from the Franco-Prussian War, whatever, who used to sit during the French Revolution. They would sit on the outside of the gallery the platform where the guillotine was, right?
Okay,
and they would just be knitting. And when King Louis and Marie Antoinette and all the nobles and the priests And when they ran out of them, it was called the Red Terror because it was just anybody. If there was a time, this was in Place de la Concorde in Paris, there was a time when if somebody just wrote your name on a piece of paper and stuck it to one of the boards in the Place de la Concorde, they go, oh, arrest that lad. Somebody's outed him as being an enemy of the revolution. And you'd get your head chopped off, and they'd be sitting there knitting handkerchiefs and scarves, and they dip it in the blood, and they would sell it. And that's kind of what it's like now with these kind of keyboard warriors from either side. They just want blood. They're out for blood, and the issue has completely gone to the wayside. It's become totally people act like they're part of some bigger movement, but it's totally individual.
Yes,
and that's not to say
point, Len.
that's
Beautiful
not to say
point.
that the movement isn't a thing.
Isn't
It
a thing.
absolutely
Beautiful
is.
point,
But it's
Len.
being sold out by these cunts who are just trying to use it for their own individual kind of merit or whatever. You know.
That's a beautiful point, and I mean you articulated it so well, and it's sort of what really it was what I was trying to say, because I feel like, because I was there going, if we have to shout at people the whole time to tell them that they're wrong unless they think exactly this, have we no trust in them to be righteous, to walk a righteous path anymore? But then as soon as I said that to myself as I'm having this conversation, just, philosophizing like a motherfucker, everything you say about other people, you're actually saying about yourself.
Oh man, that's like some Zen level shit, man.
I did a communications workshop with a woman, and she's a Mary, kiss my fingers to the sky, fucking genius woman. And she said that everything people say about other people, they're saying about themselves. And it's like that thing, the Gandhi thing, is that when you point one finger at someone else, you have three fingers pointing back at yourself. And I just think that is so, clever and relevant. Or it took me a while to be able to apply that notion, and especially in a relationship. And it's not so that I can go, oh, that what that person's saying holds no water. They're talking about this.
That's what
I'm rubber, you're glue. What I'm actually saying is, how can I use that as a tool for what I'm saying about other people? Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, it was so powerful just to let a lot of stuff go. Yeah. Because you're going, no, the reason I'm saying this is because you said that. It's just like going, let it go, man. You're actually talking about yourself. And if you don't want to, and again, be the change you want to see. If you don't want to see what you're talking about, don't be it.
Yeah.
Just don't be it. That for me is so powerful. It's so relieving. And it's like that thing, they're just out for blood. And it's just like, am I projecting my own insecurities and unhappiness onto someone else via a movement or a social injustice?
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is just mind-boggling to me, because it's like, that then becomes really dangerous, because we're not looking at the crux of the social issue. We're not we're not even having a conversation about that. We're having a conversation about your unhappiness, about your insecurity.
It's like everyone's living their own story, and it's difficult. It's difficult to reconcile yourself with your own narrative, and sometimes they see this opportunity to take part in this, to be a part of this wider narrative. They think, well, it doesn't matter what I think about myself if all anybody thinks about me is that I'm this person.
But that's the other thing, is that we're obsessed now more in the 21st century, and this is going to be a big one if we do a relationships podcast. I'd love to do. Yeah. We're obsessed with what other people think. Am I doing the right thing? Does that person think that that's cool? Does that person think that that's moral or whatever? It's just like, what do you think? The only person you have to validate yourself to is you. Yeah. Walk your own righteous path. And that's not an excuse to be a fucking murderer or a rapist or a sociopath. That's just like a way to, it's just like, you don't have to make other people happy. You have to make yourself happy. You don't have to other people don't have to accept you. You have to accept you. Yeah. And so, I mean, earlier on you said there that we talked about how the right and the left now use situations to sort of solidify or galvanize their standpoint. Yeah. That's actually a classic trick of the right. That's something they've been doing since forever, just trying to galvanize their own sort of malevolent standpoints or whatever. But it's almost like, and I said then, the left is meant to be the voice of reason, the sort of the rationale to that. And that's not happening anymore. But the thing about it is, it's like, that's what the right has always looked like. That's the way they've always operated. And I tell you, you see it a lot on Facebook. I think social media is the most divisive place on planet Earth. It is half-truths. It's stories seasoned with truth. And we definitely talked about this on the Lost tapes, our basement tapes, our cavern club tapes, that there was a situation there a few months ago in France where a young 18-year-old man attacked people. I mean, I think he chopped someone's fucking head off because he chopped a teacher's head off because the teacher had shown the Charlie Hebdo pictures. And I'm not getting into that conversation. I don't want to get into that conversation. For me, that's a mental health issue. If for a 18-year-old boy, and again we talked about this, and you see it with like the KKK and white supremacy, that for me must have been a disenchanted, lost young man with serious mental health issues who was manipulated by, like we spoke there, that like the guys at the top of Daesh, and they're fucking pussy eating, weed smoking motherfuckers. They just they're 100%.
Power hungry. They're individualists, man.
Facilitating their own agenda. Yeah. And they're never strapping it onto themselves. They're never going to chop someone's head off in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
But that's another conversation to have. But I noticed on Facebook when I was looking through the comments of an Irish Times magazine, let me just say this as well. The Irish Times, you talked about tabloid paper sensationalism. The Irish Times should be fucking ashamed of themselves. It's a rag. And I guarantee you go on Facebook there, Rob, you go to the Irish Times Facebook page and you just scroll down through the headlines, you will laugh at how divisive some of those fucking headlines are from our national publication, right? But when I looked at the comments, say, like there's an Irish Times article about those beheadings in France. When I looked at the comments, they were fucking sickening because you're just like going, I'm not listening to this shit. That's what that's all about. And, you just feel like some of these people going, if this has nothing to do with religion, and like, if you think that that's what their Islam is about, just go and read a fucking book and have a look at Western intervention in the Middle East for the last 50, 60 years and tell me this isn't the colonialist chickens coming home to roost. Like that guy, like young Muslims eat shit in France. Like there are, North Africans, Muslims.
Face and double hand transplant.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus. All for the one donor? That is mental.
Not land Bible or something.
Addicted to Diet Coke. My battle to beat a train.
Irish Times. And so what I would... My point is that people don't even want to ask the question, what was going on there for that young man? They just go, he's a Muslim and they're all beheaders. And this malevolent, untrue narrative just comes straight out of everyday normal people. And I'm just there going, but the right, those extreme right heads were always gross. Yeah. They always looked gross. And you could always just go, fuck off, mate. No one's interested in your bullshit. Like those BNP heads who come over and start talking about white pride. And it's like, well, hold on, mate. Get the fuck out. We're not interested.
But now there aren't just publications that, niche publications that sort of back up their theories. There's a whole ocean of shit online that'll back up any opinion. I mean, the greatest example of it is the flat earth thing. Like 20 years ago even, if I'd have gone to you, mate, do you know the way the earth is supposed to be round, right? But if I look around the horizon, it doesn't look round. You'd be like, go away and be fucked, you idiot. What? I can't believe you just said that to me. You'd be texting everybody going, you won't believe what Len just said to me. But now, and I'd be like, oh yeah, sorry, what was I thinking? I'm an idiot. But now you can just go on like an online forum and have a load of people go, yeah, fuck all these people who are trying to tell us the earth isn't flat,
more than that, they'll have loads of their own scientific papers and evidence or whatever. Like you can make, and it's just like statistics. I can come up with a statistic to suit any argument that I have. Yeah. But at the same time, they're interesting as well. But like, so yeah, it's not really a fair.
But I don't think you fight that. So yeah, but they put a lot of, it's when people get emotional behind things as well. And like you say, the right has always done it. The right has always gotten on someone's like, you know, family values and freedom, and you're trying to tell me whatever. And it's like, geez, why are you getting? If you're right, why are you angry? Do you know what I mean? If you're talking from a rational, if you really believe in what you're saying, and it's not just coming from some place of personal gain or whatever, then why do you need to get so emotional behind it?
Yeah,
And
okay, yeah.
I feel like the left now, like you say, used to be the kind of calm voice of reason, because they were sort of the underdogs.
They were good, always up for a ruck and be like, no, push far enough and be like, no, wait a fucking minute.
Yeah.
But there was just more like,
It's just become a
more
shouting match.
rationality. A total shouting match. It's just like,
And
I'm gross, gross rhetoric just bouncing off each other, and stuck in the middle is this fucking.
And I even think if you do
Nothing's happening.
want to destroy, if you really are not interested in what your opponent's opinion is and you want to destroy them, the still most effective way to do it is by calmly, rationally listening to what they say and dismantling it, rather than trying to, like, as an effective method. Do you really think this scorched earth isolationist shut them out? Like, to be honest with you, as soon as someone tells me something is prohibited, it's verboten, you're not allowed to listen to that person, those ideas are too dangerous. Why are they dangerous? Why are you afraid if someone hears those ideas, they'll be influenced by them? Are your ideas that flimsy that you
your
can't stand up to a
insecurities
discussion?
that you're projecting? I was just like, maybe you're a fucking racist misogynist.
That is what it is. It's like I'm just not. We're not even having the discussion. It's like, why? Because you don't think you can stand. You don't think you can hold your own in a discussion. Do you know that kind of way?
It's a bizarre, and there we go. That's the depth of conversation. But I tell you, right, I was married and now I'm separated, and so that would potentially colour my perspective. But one thing I think I see is that the divide between men and women is becoming bigger, or men and women are becoming more divided, which is mad when you think about it, because men and women, we populated the earth together.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, maybe that, and again, I want to make a real point here, is that men are douchebags, I suppose, or men are different. We're wired differently. And we're going to cut that bit.
Scratch that. 46.
Okay.
Wow, no way, really?
Yeah, but we've half an hour of bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah,
Look, I just...
Yeah, okay.
I do, look, I suppose that I think that men and women are becoming more divided. Or it's just another arm... Oh, see, this is where it's getting a bit...
man, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like men and women men are morons. We're lazy, we're smelly, we've got smelly feet, we fart, we're insensitive. Like, we're those things, we're crass. Obviously, what's this?
See you doing the Gandhi point.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah, but I mean, most of the rapists are men.
Pretty much all. There's probably like 10 rapists in the world that are women.
Yeah, well, I just didn't want to say. Also, all the rapists are men, but there just seemed to be, like, up until recently, in general. Obviously, the rapists usually don't find love or happiness or companionship, or maybe they do. But in general, there would just seem to be a bit more compromise or understanding or allowing, or just living with it a bit more. Like, I suppose women are starting to figure out that they don't need men.
Yeah, no,
We're not worth it. We're not worth the hassle really anymore. They've got all the sperm and fucking shit like that they need in...
that was the conspiracy with sperm banks, man. They've got all the sperm they need now.
Now we're done for.
We're over.
And, like, for me, it is... I just think that it's like, if you can... men are morons, but I don't think, and like, you know, obviously, because here's the point, all the rapists are men, but not all men are rapists. And this is sort of, that sort of attitude has been seeping out a bit more, like all men are abusers. I just think all people have the potential to be abusers.
Yeah.
And it's just,
That's
again,
true,
it's not
yeah.
that, it's not that I don't think that the social issues and that there isn't equality with men and women. Like I said, I think men are douchebags and we beat our wives and stuff like this. But at the same time, that's not all men. It's not like we're hardwired like that, and it's just environmental that doesn't. And so that narrative is just so divisive, and it's just like, you know, if I'm in a situation where someone's like, "Oh, you're a bully and a manipulator and an abuser," I'd just be like, I'm just gonna go, because if I'm doing those things and I don't even know it, then I'm gonna remove myself from the situation, because I don't want to be, and not because I don't want to listen to you, because I don't want to be those things. I'm trying my hardest not to be those things. I've been in a relationship where words like that were used, and it fucking broke my heart, because I was like going, and that's what I did, is a sort of defense mechanism. It's like, oh my God, am I those things? And I can't see it and I can't understand it. So I just wanted to actually get myself out of that dynamic, because I thought, now I don't know if I was those things, I don't think I was, but at the same time, it just is not like, it's just like, because it's so critical or it's so heavy, I don't know what the way I'm trying to articulate it, but it's just like, I was like, how do you talk? How do you resolve that? How do I talk about that?
Yeah.
You know, in a very...
I mean, I think things have changed very rapidly over the last
Very
number of
rapidly, very
years.
quickly.
You know, literally, I mean, let alone in this country, but, you know, I suppose the 50s, the whole dynamic, the whole classic male breadwinner, female homemaker dynamic was still going strong.
Fucking right. In the 50s, fucking right it was.
Absolutely, right.
In the 80s,
at
in
least
the 90s.
in this country, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and elsewhere, and is still going strong.
It's still going strong.
So many places today, but also we're seeing like there's such a huge upswing of like female leaders and all this kind of thing as well. And there will be a female president of the United States in the next. I have to stop to think about United States, the United States, America. Am I saying that right? In the next kind of like.
Don't get me chipping that.
In the next 10 or 20 years, right? Easy. And that would be a big turning point. But yeah, there's a huge amount of...
For me, it's women's turn.
I fallout. Yeah,
Give
for
them a
sure.
go. They're more empathic, they're more caring and compassionate. They don't have dicks.
Yeah.
And you might think this is a joke.
Yeah.
But here's a little, you know, snapshot into the male psyche for you women. We have a second brain, literally, and it fucks with our ego, with our concentration, with our loyalty, with everything. And I know this sounds like such a cop-out, and some females are probably going, what a dick. But I swear to God,
like, that's my point, yeah.
you put a fucking set of testicles in between your legs and you know all about it. That stuff's just like, and it, like, I would say that most men spend 50% of their time thinking about pussy, and like just seeing a woman and going, geez, look at that bum, and just right underneath her bum's a vagina, and I wonder what that looks like.
And just right underneath. Man, I kind of, I think we're...
And I think, look, I'm going to skirt over that real quickly. But honestly, that's a real... Like, pornography is obviously a fuel for that, but there's something wrong with men in that way, or there's just something like where we're trying to... And a lot of what we do and say is not based in some sort of level of rationale.
I think...
no, look, scrap that.
No, it makes sense. Tame Impala have a good song.
Oh, yeah?
Because I'm a man.
Right, okay, I must listen to that song. I love
Their
that.
weakness is the source of all his pride.
Telling you, man, that's what it is. It's that, it's your pride, your ego. Like, if I don't have sex for 6 months, man, my balls own me. They own me. And that's another way. I don't know how women don't already rule the world. Because it's just like, men would do anything. Oh, I'm going to have to say it, right?
He's going to say it.
I saw a thing on Vice, and Vice has turned into something I don't know. It's like two people run Vice now. It's funny then that were you saying
and
to me that
Two Chains is one of them apparently. That's all they fucking do.
one of the Proud Boys or something is
declared a terrorist group now. Like,
Gavin McInnes. Yeah,
he started
that's
Vice.
Right,
Is that correct?
It's crazy,
they
isn't
say
it?
he
Vice
started
Media.
like hipsterism as well.
He started
When
hipsterism.
he used to have the beards,
Right, yeah.
the
Oh,
modern
the kind of
look,
old
Yeah.
penny farthing fucking vibe. Wow,
that
that's
was right at the
interesting.
start of it.
That makes sense.
That's interesting.
But I saw on Vice a thing a while ago, and this for me, I was just like, oh Jesus, that's where men and women are going. We're fucking doomed. It's like, have you ever met someone on Tinder who was okay with your queer veganism, only to find out they were sneaking out of the house to eat Big Macs or something like this? And I was just like, yeah. And it's like, you've been woke fished. And I was just like going, on so many levels, I was just like going, no, bitch, you haven't been woke fished. Do you know men have pretending to be things they're not to get pussy since forever? Forever, because when their balls take over, we'd fucking say and do anything. We'd say and do anything for pussy. That's how I don't understand. Women don't already rule the world. It's just like, you wanna? You know. So, and when I saw this thing, you've been woke fished, I just was like, because again, that's just like, that's not what's going on. Just like, not all men are rapists. Men rape. But it's just like, we're just talking shit because we want to get laid. And actually, it's our own insecurities. Men are hugely insecure. We need this. And there's this sort of duality within us of like being a fucking, just want to fuck everything, and actually needing to feel connected to people. And it's something probably to do with being in the womb, and we're constantly searching for that thing. But like, get with the fucking program. Like, whoever in Vice gave that oxygen for me is just like, you're a fucking dick, mate. You knew that this is bullshit. It's just some fucking dope shining on. It's just like, she's unhappy. You know what I mean? Give me a break here. Woke fishing. I was just like, get out of here, you fucking bint. Like, what do you want from me? You know.
I remember seeing this.
Like, I'm not going to, if I'm a rapist and a murderer and abuser and I know that, I'm not going to pretend not, or maybe I am, I don't know, but in my rationale, it's just like, I'm not pretending not to be those things just so I can get you and do it to you. But like, if I just say, here, do you like Nirvana? Like, in my head, it's just like going, well, not really, but Jesus, if this bitch likes it, yeah, I love him. Give me the, you know what I mean? That's what men do. And you don't have to judge them or think they're the worst things on planet Earth for doing that. It's just like, that's men. And it's sort of innocuous. Yeah, there could be like, there's an extreme version of that. And guess what? Stay away from them men. But, you know, fucking hell. It's just like, you could come up with, it's just like I could look at any human behaviour and go, that's insert fucking term here. I mean, who wants to be a woke fisher? Who wants to be a gaslighter? You know, it's just like, fucking hell.
Gaslighter's good. I prefer gaslighting.
You like gaslighting bitches?
Pro gaslighting.
No, as the term.
Alright, okay.
I think it's a good term.
I think it's a good term as well, but I also think that it's just like going, I don't know. I just think that you got to be careful of those things, because it's like, when you put a term like that on it,
you shut down a conversation a little bit. Yeah, I think you
Len
can.
just said
I think
it.
that's
You
kind
do.
of true.
And that's
That
what,
can be a positive, though.
What, closing down a conversation?
never. That can never
No,
be a
no,
positive,
no,
I don't
no.
think.
An argument with someone.
You
Anyway,
look,
this is another thing I'd like to get on with after.
Okay,
I think
but to
personally,
shut down an argument,
Yeah,
that's all right.
yeah.
But I think when people put labels on it like
Labels.
that, like
Fuck
a woke
labels,
fisher
man.
or a thing, it's just like going, like, even if I don't know what it is, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be that. Because it's like, oh, you're a woke fisher, are you? That's disgusting.
Yeah,
You know,
immediately I've
da-
written you
da- da-
off.
da.
and-
And no, I'm not. I'm all for, you know, fuck off, leave me alone.
But you know, look, man, I still operate on the basis that I think 90%, more than 90% of people just want to get on with their lives.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. I still believe that. I still
think
think,
you're right.
I think you can, and that's why if you go on a binge on social media, online in particular, especially these days when we're not leaving the house, you can become convinced that the world is all just full of these people.
Do you know what, Len? I just want to say, I love doing this podcast with you.
This is chief,
because
man. This is
that
chief.
is exactly, I just feel like that is, it's like a thought that I had that you just articulated really well.
It's like it went through the couch, out your
Out my
arse, through
arse,
the couch.
up through your urethra, into your testicles.
Like one of those Brazilian fish that
up through your
swims
gut.
up your penis. Yeah.
But no, I 100,
He's got his hand.
I'm the marionette. Oh my God, I lost my train.
You're at almost at 2 hours here.
We're literally going to wrap this up
we're
now.
gonna wrap this up.
We're literally going to wrap this up. But look, all of what I just would like to try and wrap it up in a little way, if that's all right with you, Len. All of what I'm trying to say is not like, and again, because right. I was thinking to myself, Ruben, is it actually that bad, or are you just sitting in your little insular bubble on your phone thinking it's that bad, and then are you perpetuating or exacerbating the situation by doing a whole podcast on it? Yeah. But I don't think that that's what we're doing. I would like to think that it's just like, stop, take a deep breath, have a look at the who, the why, the what, the where, and have a conversation about it.
That's it, man.
That's all. I can be a real asshole, and so I'm not trying to come over as like, this really, I just want to have conversations all the time. I'm so, cool and pacifist. I'm insecure, I can be defensive, I love having a rook, and so I am you. I'm talking to myself as much as anyone else. I'm trying to have this conversation with myself as much as anyone else. But one thing that I keep coming back to is that, and again, not to belittle the social issues, not to belittle the fact that George and Kensho was shot, not to belittle, and I have to say, when I seen the George Floyd thing, that was, one of the most barbaric things I'd ever seen, really, in my life, when the man called for his mother and all. And so I'm not, and the Me Too movement and all of these things are really important social issues. We're trying to have a look at real important social issues. I'm not for 1 minute trying to criticize or belittle those. I'm trying to have a conversation about or highlight the divisive nature in which we deal with these social situations and the lack of conversation and the disparity that we're widening the gap of division. Here's just maybe a little food for thought. Immigrants, asylum seekers, the working classes, people from different countries with different colour skin who talk different languages, women, because another thing that we didn't get to touch on, we're not going to really get to touch on, was that out of the sort of LGBT movement, there was I can find that a lot of the time around transgender, homosexuality, those sort of topics, conversation is dipped right down. For me, I just find that to be the most one that I just wouldn't, wouldn't really want to have conversations about, because I feel like they're some of the most divisive things. But my point is, all of the people, all of our perceived enemies, whether they be white males, females, immigrants, asylum seekers, gays, trans, whatever your perceived enemies are, or whatever the projection of your division is, they're not. Yeah. They are not. The real divide in the world, in this country, and in the world is money. It's have and have not. And it really...
Fucking A, baby.
I'm serious. And until we fucking deal with that and have a real look at that and learn to accept the differences between each other and really focus on that main difference, we're fucked. We had in this country a first generation Irishman, second, son of an immigrant, a homosexual man as the Taoiseach in this country, the leader, the Prime Minister.
When how many? 30 years ago, homosexuality was still illegal in this country.
And on a sort of international, it does not get, on paper, it does not get more diverse than that. But we are talking about a man who is not brown or rainbow coloured. He is the colour of money. He walks around in a €700 Moncler jacket on the weekends. He makes policy to suit his divide, his side of the divide, which is have not. This is a man who got his political capital from setting up a system that alienated and criminalised the most vulnerable members of our society in the wake of the biggest financial heist, really, the biggest sort of state-sanctioned fucking heist this country has ever seen. That is the sort of person you're talking about, and it's not, you would think, like I said, he's not brown, he's not rainbow coloured, he's green, and that's the new difference. There's two types of people in the world now. There's masters and there's servants. And if you think, I'm not a fucking servant, you are, mate, because there's very few masters and there's billions of servants, should I say. But guess what? And here's a little one to leave on. There's more of us. And if we can highlight the real divide, we have enough people, we have enough strength to mobilize and change things for the better of anyone. But as long as we remain divided, that is never going to happen. Together we can stand, divided we will fall.
Brother. Yes, man. Yeah, that's 100. I mean, if you want to get into the conspiracy end of it, that is, they want to keep us fucking at each other. They want to keep us on the phones.
Look, man, I could go on all day about it, but it's just like the power is in our hands. And so
we got to live together.
Have we any idea what we want to do next, or are we just going to have a discussion about it?
I think we'll chat about it, Jerry. I can't think right now. We'll chat about it during the week.
Next week we're going to do an equally riveting podcast on God knows what. Thanks for watching, if in fact you did.
Much love. And we're out. Hey.